There's a lot of talk around the country, and they're now putting cameras in construction zones and all the safety nonsense they're doing. But as you travel around the country, you realize one thing: regardless of the requirement to have a uniform system throughout the country, based in fact on best practices, we have none of that going on right now. You go from one state in a particular zone, the speed limit will be 65 through a construction zone. You go to another state in the same condition, it'll be 45. The problem is the issue is never the speed limit. It's how they set up the approach to the zone. The object of a proper approach to the zone is give advanced warning and then clearly show the lane where you're going to do the zipper movement, where you merge the two lanes into one. Before any of the traffic gets to the place where the workers are actually working, you want to have it calm down, uniform in speed, and flowing smoothly without interruptions. That's how you improve safety. And that includes city streets, I don't care what. What I see commonly is totally inadequate lane advance warnings, lane convergence zones, improper markings. Some traffic devices produce too much reflectivity and they make it hard to see the actual delineation changes. But in no case the actual posted speed limit really has that much effect. Feedback trailers help a little bit, but more importantly, it all boils down to making sure that all the chaos or disruption in flow and everything else is eliminated before they get to the workers. That's beginning and end. Number two, if you have any special speed limits for a construction zone, the old rule was that you remove them once the hazard is reduced. And these requirements don't care if it's a freeway, a city street. If you, even on a city street, let's say you have a speed zone of 25 or 30, and you have one that's 45, each one of those would require a different setup on the traffic control devices to protect the people. There's two things that have really concerned me even more: how inadequate or improperly some of these approach areas are set up. It's the lighting in the zone, number one, and the enforcement, where they've turned some of these zones into complete criminal enterprises on the enforcement side. Early on in life, I owned a company that did a lot of highway work. I did traffic loops, so we were setting traffic control up constantly every single day. And I watched what happened because I was living it. I was one of the people working behind the cones. And every time you see a safety thing, or we need cameras, or we need more work on the work zone safety stuff, yes, we do need to be very careful. It's a very tragic situation when somebody gets killed by a vehicle. And I saw a quite cool device in California where they actually had a barrier system on the back of a tractor trailer where they could isolate the workers from major impact and move along in the work zone with the workers to protect them individually. But where it gets craziest is the lighting. I spent much of my life in lighting and off-road lighting and safety and all these other things. And you go into these work zones. In fact, just this last week, I was going through an area where they were picking cones up. The vehicle picking cones up had bright white lights facing forward of the vehicle into traffic, eyes, to pick up the cones. You could not hardly see 2 feet in front of you. You slow down, you slow down, you slow down, you try and get by. And I finally cleared the lights, and there was a guy walking in the road picking up cones 10 feet behind the truck. Oh my God, are you serious? And then you go into a construction zone the other night where they just had the lights on and they had already closed up. And it was new construction adjacent to a 2-lane road. And the lights were so bright into the 2-lane road, you couldn't even hardly see where the road was or what was going on. Or you go into another construction zone where every single construction vehicle who's behind a barrier to the traffic is running flashing lights, destroying the whole visual view of the approaching motorist to the zone ahead. And then you've got the overhead area lights that are area lighting that are again in the eyes of the traffic. That's totally unnecessary. If you've got rotating beacons going on beyond the barrier that are just really causing problems for the passing motorists, you need to turn them off. And if you've got overhead area lighting, being a lighting person, I know I could create a system in probably a few days that would shield the downstream lighting view of the approaching motorist with some sort of shielding system and not run lights into their eyes while keeping the work area fully lit up. And there's no effort being done on this whatsoever. There's no thought to it. It's just brighter lights, brighter lights, brighter lights, more safety, which nothing could. It's just the opposite, completely the opposite. I'm surprised we don't have more accidents in work zones, especially at night. And then we go to the question, how many people are actually being killed in work zones? I did a study a few years back, and it was when they really started the heavy enforcement in work zones. And it turned out only maybe 1/3 at most, maybe even only 1/4 of the work zone fatalities actually included when they were stating this data involved vehicles. Something like 75, 80%, whatever the number was, it was a crazy number, were work zone accidents that had no nexus whatsoever to the travel. They were simply work zone fatalities. Here's the bottom line. Every single thing I touch with National Highway Safety Administration or the safety groups, they're distorting every piece of data that they're claiming is the cause-effect relationship or how many people being killed via whatever. And it goes across every single subject matter. We know what we can do to make it safer for the drivers. We know what we can do to make it safer for the people. And we know what we can do to make it safer for the workers. The crazy example to this speed limit thing, for years I had access to California's data on all the traffic loops in the state. I looked at it monthly, I looked at it weekly, I looked at it all the time. There was one section, Interstate 15, that I think I still have the data printouts, close to Miramar, southbound 15, that was in a construction zone for years. The number one lane for over 20 hours a day had an average speed of 85 in a 65 zone. The number two lane had an average speed for 20 some hours a day of excess of 80. So that tells you that this brilliance on using speed limits that aren't respected whatsoever as a safety tool is completely gone off the hook. How many people in California do you think are going 65 or less on the freeways? Wait, nobody. Not even the people who put the signs up. We have to get a better plan. And if we put a posted speed or a recommended speed, rather than using a speed limit, which is a law, quote unquote, which is the most ignored safety device probably in the world right now, as the key element, is total insanity. It's very frustrating to see us keep going down this rabbit hole of ever increasing enforcement, of ever increasing fines, but more importantly, predicating it on a situation where we know that we're not going to have any compliance of consequence. More importantly than that, it doesn't improve the safety. The safety for the workers comes prior to the location where they're at. You've got to get the traffic under control prior to their presence and get them calmed down and reduce the chaos, period.